Hi, I'm Jim McCann, founder of 1-800-Flowers. We created this podcast to share the wonderful people we get to interact with, we get to meet, we get to know, and most importantly, get to learn from. So I invite you to join us on this journey here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast. So we're here with Sophie Anson, who's a friend for a long time. And Sophie's in the world of nutrition, health, wellness, longevity, all subjects that we're interested in and have a really growing interest in. So I thought it'd be interesting for us to have a conversation, find out what's going on in your career, and more generally what you see happening in the spaces of health, wellness, and longevity.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, great to catch up. Sophie, your background, you're born in Europe, in Switzerland.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And your beautiful, subtle accent betrays that. But you're, by background and training, a nutritionist.
Yes.
And that gave you access to the worlds of exercise, nutrition, weight management, and you've been an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You created a...
Not very successful, I should add.
Well, entrepreneurs have both. There's very few entrepreneurs who've had only successes.
Yes, they say failure is the father of success.
Indeed.
I do.
But you created a very clever company called Sophie's Yogurt.
Yes.
It was a no sugar added yogurt, as I recall.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, it was. It was actually the first no added sugar yogurt in the market in the US.
I remember it had a very clever container.
It had a very silly container. The ad was me sitting in a life-size cup of yogurt. Uh-huh. That was not Photoshop. But aside from failure at the time, there were no flavored, no added sugar yogurts in the market. Mm-hmm. So I went to a couple of competitors. I call them competitors. I'm flattering myself because we were never a competitor to them. Mm-hmm. They were ours. And I said, I really think we should have a flavored yogurt without sugar. And they said, nobody cares about sugar. People just care about fat. Sugar doesn't matter. So a couple of clients, successful clients I had worked with and friends, we went into this together. We raised money. We launched the company. I did actually very well for about 6 years. We were in Whole Foods, Airway Market.
That was the big account to break at that time, was Whole Foods.
It took us 3 years to get in, and sadly we died about 6 months later. But now, I would say there were 40 or 50 brands with no added sugar.
Including Chobani.
Including Chobani.
If I recall, you recommended to them.
I approached them and asked them, and they said sugar was everybody loved it. Mm-hmm. So that was disappointing at the time. But several other brands, Danone, Yoplait, we had French-sounding names for our yogurt. So we had creme brulee and banana cream pie.
How can you have banana cream pie or creme brulee with no sugar in it?
Right. We had sugar substitutes. We had xylitol and stevia and such. But they've now all launched with these flavors. There was no other chocolate yogurt in the market. I mean, it was my baby. It was my other baby. I was really so proud of it. And we just couldn't compete. The cost of the yogurt was actually more than what we could sell it for. Wow. Compared to some of the other brands who just mass produce in such quantities, and we wanted to use organic milk and RBGH-free milk and things like this. And so we cared about the quality, and I think when you care about the quality, the price, we just couldn't get the economy of scale. So we did that. I then launched a supplement company, ran into some of the same trouble.
So let's stop at supplement companies. We have some folks around here who've been in prior businesses around here at 1-800-Flowers. I've been in a supplement business. And people I really look up to and respect to clinicians. Some would tell you they don't believe in supplements at all.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yes. And yet here I am, I launched. So I'm known in the industry. When people come to me, they say, one of the things I appreciate is you don't push supplements. You don't say you have to take this juice or take this supplement or take these vitamins. I mean, the truth is some are necessary, and I'll get to, there are supplements and there are medications, right? Prescriptions and supplements. transplants, and huge divide between the two, and then a bit of a gray area actually between the two. There's metformin, and then there's berberine, which is a supplement. Metformin is prescribed, berberine is an over-the-counter, and they act in much the same way, not entirely the same way, but they can do much of the same things. But if you're eating correctly, the idea is you wouldn't need a supplement. So I don't like to push supplements because it can be a little bit of a turnoff. That said,
I'm guessing the reason for that is that there are people in your world that's a big part of their income.
It's a big part of their income, and so you don't. Even when I had my supplement company, I had a couple of clients who said, I really appreciate that you've never brought it up, right? I see maybe on Instagram or, on social media that you have this supplement, but you're not selling it in your office. You have to be careful.
And in your office, let's get that. Your practice is, so Table, you're talking about your clients in your office. What is your practice?
So I'm a nutritionist. I have a private practice in Manhattan. I would say it's about 50-50. 50% of my clients I work with remotely. I've never seen in person.
No kidding,
yeah. And 50% of them, if they're local, they will come to me. They might come to me for the first and last session. I have a few clients I've never even seen a photo of, who I've worked with for years. So completely anonymous. I know they exist because they're losing weight and they pay their invoices, right? But aside from that, I wouldn't have an idea what they look like, and that's okay.
Yep.
This is a self-reported camaraderie or working relationship, I should say. But people are not going to fib about their progress or what they're eating. I cost too much, right? So somebody isn't going to come to me and say I ate perfectly if they didn't, because why?
Jacqueline and I and Lisa, so producer Jacqueline and I were involved in a group discussion read last week about a phenomenon among therapists who talk about people who come to them for therapy and don't ever stop just because they enjoy the relationship and their friendship.
Yes, there's quite a bit of that. I have clients, so I work in a program of 10 sessions. Usually people come for more than 10. I do have clients I've worked with. It's not to say they haven't reached their goal after 6 months, but we continue seeing each other week after week, sometimes 4, 6, 8 years. I just started with a client who I worked with for about 8 years, didn't see for 10 years, and now she's back. So you can get a little bit of that, life gets in the way. Recidivism. That's it, exactly right. But with any of these relationships, there is a friendship that builds, and there should be, to a degree, I believe, with nutrition, not so much with your physician, where you don't need to be friends, but you need to feel that this is somebody you can confide in and joke with, and who isn't going to judge you, right? Because we've all eaten more than our fair share of cake or had a bad day, right? It's certainly happened to me. So I need my clients to know that they can open up, and you are a friend. And I often say to people, you shouldn't talk to your significant other, your spouse, about these things, because they don't really want to hear. They don't want to hear, don't let me eat the bagel. Well, that's not really fair. It's not a spouse's job to be the food police, right? So it's better not to bring that home and to give it to me instead. But so you end up talking about everything. And it's sort of I say, if you can come here and you can dump it all, you're less likely to overeat out of anxiety or frustration or anger for the rest of the week. And then you can sort of breathe for the rest, and then you come back and dump it all again. Right? And so that's the quiet, private space to do that. So some people do like to come back. It's like people with their personal trainers. I see people at the gym. They're not really working out, but they clearly like the person that they're training with. And if that person gets them to the gym and keeps them in a
There's something good in it,
then they're gaining whatever they need to gain out of it. Yeah.
So tell me about the field. Tell us about the field of nutrition today. How's it changed? How is it changing?
It's interesting you ask, because it's both very much the same and evolving over time. And by that, I mean, there are ultimately no secrets. And a nutritionist who says to you, if you walk with me, I'm going to reveal something you've never heard before. It's actually not true. Everything is available. My job is to coach people. I joke that if you've ever skied and taken a button lift, that button lift will sort of pull you up the hill, that I'm the button lift. So I'm helping people up the hill. But there isn't anything really new. We've heard it all before. At the end of it, no matter what you hear, calories count. Of course, the quality of the calories count. Mm-hmm. Of course, 1,200 calories of Twizzlers is not the same as 1,200 calories of salmon, nuts, avocado, and yogurt, right? So quality of calories count, but we can't escape certain truths which have been around forever, right? But it's also not that simple. So what's changed? We're learning that it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. We used to go to the doctor and the doctor would say, if you just exercised more and ate less, you would lose weight. We now know that that's not true.
Not true.
Right? Not true. No. And I know. People that's for me. No. Yeah, but there are other things. So there are 5. There are what I call the 5 important. So for sure, exercise we need movement. Without movement, which isn't to say that if somebody is wheelchair bound, they can't lose weight. Of course they can. If there's some movement they can do, fantastic. If they can't, then we double down on something else. Okay, but movement is terrific if you can get it. Walking, so underrated. Doesn't have to be running. It doesn't have to be HIIT intervals. Just move. And if I could split that, I would say there's a difference between exercise and activity. Just movement, daily movement, right? So we were talking as we were walking to this office, lots and lots of steps. We're not on a treadmill, it still counts. And of course, lifting weights, so important, but also stretching, yoga, pickleball, if you want to end up in a full body cast, right? So exercise is important. And then nutrition, no question that eating well is essential for weight loss. We do have to eat well. The big middle finger, sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're not losing weight. So people who are chronically sleep deprived, they're not losing weight. So they might be eating well and exercising, but if they're not sleeping for whatever reason, they have sleep apnea, they're anxious, whatever it may be, keeping them up, it's going to affect, number 4, hormones, and we'll come back to this. And if your hormones are out of whack, and this is where those sort of GLP-1s come in, right? We've sort of touched on those before. But if your hormones are out of whack, your ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, leptin, which is a fat-burning hormone, I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but those will be at odds with you, and you will therefore not be able to eat properly because it's atavistic. If your ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is up, you're going to want to eat more. If your leptin is down as a result of cortisol being high because you're not sleeping, right? You can see how they're all tying in. You're not going to be burning as much body fat. And if your cortisol is high and you're not sleeping, how are you going to exercise, right? So it all sort of comes back. So these are the hormones. So that's number 4. And we can't overlook it because if you're sleeping well and you're eating well and you're exercising, but your hormones are out of whack, it won't matter that you're doing the other 3. Then number 5 is a little soft, I will say. It's not crucial, but it's still there. I believe in it. It's what I call sort of spirituality, connection. Could be religion, could be family, could be having a dog. But it's your reason why, right? Why are you doing this? Is it for you? Is it because you want to live a long life? Is it because you're caring for a pet who needs you? Is it because a child is going to have a bat mitzvah? There could be lots of reasons, and a very good reason is I want to look great in my clothes. It could be vanity. It could be health related, but you do need your why, and you do need connection because it's really hard to do it alone, right? Yep. So yes, exercise more and eat less. But you can imagine that if you're not sleeping and it throws off all of your hormones, and that's why people get frustrated. And they come to me, what are you going to teach me that I don't already know? And I say, no, I believe nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly right. Nothing. And why am I charging as much as I do, right, to teach them nothing? That seems absurd. But it really is because they need the accountability, and it's not enough just to know what to eat. You also need the checkpoints, right? But so what's changed is that we used to believe it was just nutrition and exercise, and now we're starting to be kinder and say to these people who say, but I'm trying all of this and I still can't lose weight. And you'll say, you'll dig a little bit, because the truth is there is no such thing as somebody who's eating properly and exercise and not losing weight. Mm-hmm. But they might not be able to do that because of their hormones, right? Mm-hmm. And so by being a little kinder, instead of saying, well, you're eating too much, which is what somebody said to me when I needed to lose weight in my teens, you're just eating too much. It's why are you eating too much, right? Ding, ding, ding. It's a big difference. Yeah. Why are you eating? Well, maybe your hormones are off. Maybe you have insulin resistance. Maybe you're chronically sleep deprived. Maybe. So it's...
Or maybe you just don't know.
Maybe you just don't know. Or maybe you're starting the day with a lot of fruit, and fruit is wonderfully healthy, but it is going to cause a blood sugar surge. And when your blood sugar goes up, your pancreas's job is to release insulin to lower that blood sugar. Imagine, so you eat a banana and an apple for breakfast. That's wonderful. It's fruit. It's healthy. Blood sugar goes up. Insulin is released, pushes down your blood sugar. And now you're shaky and thinking, I need to eat again. Right? And then you grab a snack, like a bagel, something like that. And the same thing happens. So it's just saying to people, you can have fruit, but later in the day. Mm-hmm. Start your day with protein, make sure you eat. And people fear things like whole eggs or avocado or nuts, or, and they shouldn't. But so it's knowing what to eat. Mm-hmm. So that's what's changed, is a little bit more of an understanding
of the interactivity,
of the kaleidoscope, right? Yeah. It's the same picture, but shifted a little bit.
Why are we talking so much about longevity?
Well, the alternative is pretty grim, right?
We got a chance to interview a fellow recently, Alan Patricoff is his name. He's a terrific man. He's just about 90 years old now. And he's doing all these interesting things and takes care of himself, eats well, exercises, fastidious about his weight, weighs himself twice a day.
Ooh. Yeah.
And if he's off by a pound, he goes on a new regimen, right?
Mm-hmm. What's interesting about that, I can't help but say there are so many things that affect our weight which have nothing to do with our body fat or body composition. If it's humid out, you'll weigh more, right? On a hot day, you'll weigh more. If you drink a lot of wine, you're going to weigh less the next day because it's a diuretic. Really? Right? But that's not a reason to drink a lot of wine.
Drink more wine.
Exactly. You eat a lot of salt, and there's nothing really wrong with salt.
Is there a difference between red and white wine in its diuretic effects?
No, not enough to make a difference. Both.
Seems to me there is.
Really? You've noticed a difference?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't, I'll be candid, I don't drink enough wine to really know.
I've been doing research.
Exactly. Maybe I'll try. But salt, if you don't, I have low blood pressure, so I eat plenty of salt. If you don't have high blood pressure, salt is not the enemy. Yeah. But eating a salty meal can make you up 2 or 3 pounds. Leg day at the gym. Mm-hmm. If you do heavy leg day at the gym, you're going to weigh a couple of pounds more the next day because glycogen, you're swollen, right? So I just want to point out, you can weigh yourself every day, but that 2 or 3 pound fluctuation have nothing to do with your actual weight. Sounds like he's got it under control. He's 90, he's figured this out, so I'm sure he sounds fascinating.
He's a wonderful guy, fascinating indeed. I remember the famous golfer, Arnold Palmer. And he was being interviewed, and it was later in his life, and someone said to him, Arnie, are you ever going to retire? He says, oh, yeah, I'm going to retire. And what are you going to do when you retire? He said, when I retire, I'm going to fly my plane, I'm going to play a lot of golf, I'm going to spend time with the people I want to be with, I'm going to tend to my business interests because I really enjoy all the different things. He says, oh my goodness, I guess I'm retired.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's all in the definition.
It's all in the definition. That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. But longevity, to your point, I think that we're learning, first of all, that, absent that we get hit by a bus, that there are things within our control that we can do in order to live longer. We talked about the GLP-1s, metformin, berberine, anything that makes us slightly more insulin resistant. Again, I do want to just say for the record, I'm not a doctor. I'm not pretending to be a doctor. I do have to be a little bit careful. Anybody who, listens to me, take my advice with a grain of salt. But these drugs, metformin is being talked about as a life-extending drug. Dr. Longo, who founded, it's a sort of 500 to 800 calorie a day, 5-day diet. And he has an amazing podcast which discusses the health benefits and longevity benefits of metformin as a drug.
And what is metformin?
Metformin is prescribed to, typically it's being prescribed to people who have diabetes to make them more insulin sensitive. And it does have the added benefit of helping them lose weight over time. If you become more insulin sensitive, you will likely lose weight over time. It does take a few months to kick in. I think it's also prescribed, again, not a doctor, off-label for women who have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It can help with that. Again, related to the insulin sensitivity. So that's the baby version of now the big dogs, the GLP-1s, the injectables.
Well, let's delve into that some. You and I chatted about it on the phone recently, but I was wondering, and get you to answer now, I wonder what longer-term impacts come from this. I could see it being really good and really interesting and really having unanticipated impacts on aspects of the economy and society.
Oh, for sure.
And I also live in fear about, I've seen it in my own family, some people who used GLP-1 and Ozempic and had unbelievable results.
Yeah. But
I worry about something they have to take ever greater quantities of, and what happens when it's over.
And these are such good questions, and I wouldn't be able to answer it based on the information I have to date, because I would say I wouldn't know enough in the field, nor have I.
I'm just asking, not asking you with your professional hat on, but with you're an observer, you're knowledgeable about the space. What are you watching there? What are your curiosities about the drug, its impact, and its longer term effect?
Diabetics have been taking it for a long time.
Yes.
For a long time now, and we're not seeing any ill effects. I'm going to talk to both sides. So some people need it, and some people want it, and there is a bit of a difference.
But if it changes people's behavior,
that's what I was getting. Yeah,
it curbs your
addiction. It curbs
your cravings.
Yeah, but cravings.
And does it? I've heard that it also impacts people who maybe have other kinds of dependencies.
Exactly right.
Lessens their cravings there.
Yeah. So
that could be pretty exciting.
I think it's huge. I'm a fan. I've had a lot of people say to me, this must be terrible. This must impact your business. Nobody's going to need you anymore. It's, first of all, that would be lovely for the world. So not something that I worry about, but also untrue, because you still need to eat well. You cannot, this is not a substitute.
You cannot take that and sit down with a bag of potato chips and a
bottle
Coke.
of bourbon and a potato chips and saying, yeah, this will do the job. And I have seen that. Once in a while, 1 out of 25 clients will say, this isn't working at all. And you'll dig into it a little bit, and they're eating through their lack of hunger. They're eating over their
And that's habit eating.
Habit eating, and they're not paying attention to themselves at all.
We put our heart into everything we do. We are farmers, bakers, florists, and makers who grow and create with a passion. 1-800-Flowers. Share with love.
What's the mortal sin for you? Is it the bag of chips?
No.
All that processed food?
Processed food. You know what? A mortal sin for me. Actually, that's a good one, because I don't mind the potato chips. I don't mind what drives me mad it makes my teeth itch. Artificial coloring. The Starbursts, all of these
gummy bears,
the gummy bears, which are artificially colored, these drinks, which are artificially colored, like Fanta, bright orange, bright blue, kids that have blue tongues from and you think Kool-Aid. I joke with my clients. I say
Kool-Aid was health food when I was a kid.
there you go. Did we all drink your
when
water?
my son ate anything blue, he acted crazy.
Well, you will.
Like literally, he would be like a different child when he ate anything blue.
I'm not going to throw it out
Yes.
there, but they're linking it to all sorts of disorders. These guys, I joke with my clients. I say you can eat anything on my planet except artificial food coloring, foods with artificial food coloring, foods with added sugar,
Everything.
which I do eat. And trans fats. And they say, well, come on, Sophie, I need better guidelines.
Trans fats.
Trans fats, it's sort of palm oils, right? And I say, no, but if you look at labels, there's nothing left.
Yes.
Right? There's nothing left. So that does drive me mad. Just answer the question about the GLP-1s, because I do think it's important. First of all, it does curb addiction. So people are saying it's preventing nail biting.
Wow.
Really?
Alcohol.
I've heard from people I know have been on it that their interest in alcohol went.
Has gone away. Gambling. I mean, and I would throw out there to people who say, well, what are the long-term? Think about, and I'm going to give examples. I'm going to give pretend examples. Imagine somebody who comes to me and she's only 15 pounds overweight, so doesn't qualify for a GLP-1. But has...
What do you think the threshold is in terms of pounds overweight?
Well, that's where I'm going to go. So it's does she, doesn't she, right? So, and then we'll take an example of someone who's 60 pounds overweight, right? So to compare. But so this woman is 35 years old, and her mother first put her on a diet when she was 8 years old, and she has a horrible relationship with food. She was bulimic in her teens. She's now moderately overweight. She spends all day berating herself about her weight, about her appearance, about what she should and shouldn't eat. She feels guilty when she eats. And she's hungry all the time. And she's consumed by wanting to eat and not wanting to eat. Is she a candidate? I would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the benefits she would garner from going on a gym and turning down that volume of all that noise and all those things she's heard, and just being able to eat and stop when she's full and move on with her life and go out for lunch and order something healthy and not care so much about should I, shouldn't. Of course she's a candidate, right? Now, somebody else, 60 pounds overweight, I've had people say, I worry about the long-term effects of this. I'm a fan within reason that it should be under a reputable doctor's supervision, because what you are seeing...
It only can be a prescription, right?
Well, but what you are seeing now is there are places you can go online and order it.
Just for that.
So they're making compounded iterations of it, and some may be reputable, some not, and some are not. And then you can walk up and down Manhattan, and there are places where you can go and get Botox or a GLP-1 shot, right? It's sort of $150 for either, and I'm not sure these people are qualified to be doing that.
Being the grandfather of 7, I've noticed most of my kids were chubby. Of my grandkids.
I weighed over 10 pounds at birth.
Did you? So
yeah, I was a chub.
But none of my grandchildren are anything close to. They're all skinny minks.
Interesting.
But they were all chubby babies. Is that healthy?
I would say. I mean, you wouldn't.
And I love a chubby baby.
Yes.
So do I. My daughter will murder me for saying this, but she was just 5 pounds when she was born. She was the tiniest little thing. And I breastfed her, and within 2 months, instead of doubling her weight, I think she quadrupled her weight. And the doctor said to me, "What are you feeding her?" I said, "Nothing, me." But she was so round, I couldn't even fold her to hold her. She was just, spherical. I mean, it was the sweetest thing. And she is a she is
How
as
old is she now?
new and lithe and tiny today at 17.
17.
She's
Yeah, I
she's
guess we
a
met about
great
10 years ago then.
Yes, exactly right. So is it healthy? I would say yes, it's protective. You don't want too much. It's not healthy if mom has had issues or sort of gained too much weight during pregnancy, and we want to avoid gestational diabetes and all these issues. But a little chub on a child, I think, is protective.
Good. Let's run through a few things. Sophie's tips. You're working with a group, and they want to say, I want to eat better. I would think that the first thing you would tell them is eliminate snacking.
Well, eliminate bad snacks.
Okay.
So it's interesting because yes.
Tip number one on snacking should you eliminate it, or you're going to tell us what we can snack on? Is it your opinion that we should snack on the things you're going to tell us are good, or only snack on those if you feel the need to?
Only snack on them if you feel the need to. Some people do really well on 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
Some people like 3 meals and 2 snacks, or sort of 1 meal.
Okay, what's in the good
5
snacks list?
Good snacks.
Unsalted nuts?
Unsalted roasted nuts in moderation.
Roasted?
Dry roasted or raw.
Raw is fine.
I prefer roasted, but raw is
I like raw
moderately better.
Mm-hmm.
Plain Greek yogurt, eggs, avocado.
I love avocado. I never saw an avocado as a kid.
I don't me neither. We were just talking about that recently.
And an avocado cut up with a little Worcester sauce on top is the best snack in the world. A little bit of salt. To me, that's a perfect snack. People fear avocados. Have the whole avocado, but don't put it on a piece of toast necessarily, right?
My kids are all good with their kids about eating well and not drinking a lot of sodas. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's
and
really
you don't
hard
want
with
to
kids.
Say none.
Yeah.
You don't want to say none, because the minute you say none, it becomes a thing. Right, so it's like, don't touch the hot oven, and right. And I'm the same. If somebody tells me that,
but I see with my kids and their kids, my grandkids, going out to eat in places. It's hard not to order a Sprite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'll say to people who do 50-50 club soda and Sprite. You'd be amazed. You won't notice the difference, but it's 50% better. I had a client who was drinking 6 to 8 Coca-Colas a day, and I said, just do half club soda, half Coca-Cola, and now you're down to 3 a day. No, I wouldn't recommend drinking Coca-Cola, but 3 is better than 8, right? And he said, honestly, I couldn't taste the difference. It's about the act of having it.
Yes,
sort of the
a lot of our bad habits are rituals, right?
Sure.
The tactile.
Of course, and good habits are as hard to break as bad. So if we can just, you say Sophie's tips, I would say start adding good habits. Don't worry so much about what you can't do, because that makes people upset and obsess. But if you can add in, move more. If you cannot get to the gym, you don't have time, move more, get up. Walk to the colleague to tell them something instead of emailing. Go out for lunch. Pick up your lunch if you live in Manhattan.
I find behaviorally my Apple Watch reminding me it's time to stand. Yeah. It makes a difference.
It does. It does. And mine does the same. And you think, of course it does. This is. Have you heard of the Aura Ring?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are fun. I mean, they track everything you do. It tells me when I'm being naughty. It'll really.
Can we get an alert when you're naughty?
Exactly. Bad Sophie. Your watch would be buzzing all day long. But it's a fun little.
And what does it connect to? Your iPhone?
So an app on my phone, and it tells me how well. It's very generous. I mean, it says I've walked 13 miles in a day when my watch tells me it's 2.5. So it's definitely.
Well, it's measuring your hand movement.
Yeah.
We discovered that with a guy in the office. Oh, I'm walking X number of miles. We're saying, how are you doing that?
Eating.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 13 miles of eating. Exactly right.
First, introduce new habits, and then hopefully eliminate bad habits.
Get movement in.
Movement.
Sleep enough.
Yep.
And plan ahead. People underestimate how important it is to plan ahead, they'll say, well, I ate the pizza because there was nothing else. Well, there's nothing else if you did go shopping, right? And it sounds so
What
obvious.
about shopping on an empty stomach?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Shopping on an empty stomach, of course, and we've all done it where, we're sort of opening the bags at the cash register. But
what about journaling? When I say journaling, I don't mean that you have a journal, but maybe you commit to keep it on your Outlook calendar.
Drives me mad, personally, but it's a wonderful tool. And I say to clients, if you're willing to do it, send it to me, whether it's via text in a shared note in an email. I can help somebody who's journaling so much more than I can, because people who come to me, they're well-read, educated, super successful.
Well, all your clients are, because you're so darn expensive.
Well, but they know what to do, but it's in the details. They're not coming to me and saying, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to eat Pringles and Snicker bars for lunch, right? So they know what to do.
She's talking about all my basic food groups.
Right, and
It has potatoes and
as
peanuts.
long as it has
right?
chocolate in it, I've never messed chocolate. I didn't want to love. It's those details. It's you ate salad for lunch, but I eat salad every day for lunch. But if you're putting croutons and dressing and cheese and nuts, and you're using the salmon and the avocado, those are good fats, right? But then you don't need cheese and olive oil on top. You want sort of.
I thought olive oil on your salad would be a much better choice than the dressings.
I would rather somebody throw half an avocado on their salad and that be their fat. It's more satiating. Or some nuts. Eat your food. The olive oil isn't particularly satiating. So I would say...
I was under the impression olive oil is a good thing.
It's healthy. It is.
Yeah.
But people can overdo it. So and that's something I get a lot of pushback on that one, because of course olive oil is healthy, but a tablespoon of olive oil is 120 calories. And again, calories, even though we don't count calories count, right? So if you're pouring 4 tablespoons on your salad, that's almost 500 calories. I'd rather you put a whole avocado
I think more than 4 tablespoons.
for 250, right? And now you're a little bit more full than you would be from the olive oil. So some people use olive oil so liberally with cooking, they don't realize how quickly it adds up. So I'm not against olive oil. It's just be aware that if you're using olive oil, something else has to give. That's all. So the tips are be a little bit more mindful. So it could be journaling. If somebody's struggling, it's probably not one glaring thing. It's maybe hormones are off. Maybe you're not sleeping enough. Maybe it's too much olive oil. Maybe you're exercising. You're sort of running on a treadmill for 30 minutes a day, but you're otherwise sedentary. That's a big problem for most of us.
And what about time of day? I find lately, I have my set exercises I do when I get up, and I don't want to do them, but if I don't write it down on my calendar, I'm mad at myself. No one else ever sees it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm mad at myself.
I like that. I like keeping a journal for yourself.
Yeah. No one else will ever see it, but I have years of calendars.
That's great.
Not enough. But I find, even if I can just do, and I do now, even on the busy days, I'll do 15 minutes.
15 minutes. That's what I was going to say. If you can do 15 minutes.
It seems if I do it, I can't do it at night. Once in a while, but
you couldn't
rarely.
Print enough money to get me to exercise after 10 a.m.
After 6 o'clock at night, I'm on a glide path.
I'm in my pajamas.
Yeah,
I'm in bed.
And lots of times you're out, which is really obnoxious. We run around those restaurants in your pajamas.
Oh, I'm lost out. I'm lost out. No, in fact, my best friend said to me, I think recently, she said, I think we've been out to dinner twice. Once was your wedding and once was mine. And that's how it shall continue to be.
Frankly, I find it easier to eat better in a restaurant.
You can, if you're willing to ask for what of course, because you've got a menu, right?
It's ingredients. It's a list of ingredients.
It's a list of ingredients, exactly.
The bread is hard to resist.
Breaded chicken, you say I'd like the chicken but grilled, right? If they have deep fried fish, you say I'd like the cod but but grilled. So you if you use this as a menu
Yeah.
of ingredients, you can do very well in a restaurant. And then yes, of course, it's trying to sort of avoid the extras that come to the
When we chatted with Alan Patricoff, he said his trick for he and his wife, they order and split everything. He said the
One
portion
appetizer,
sizes you
one
get.
dinner,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They split an
That works
appetizer
if
and
you
dinner.
like the same thing. My husband and I
Don't like the same
don't
things.
love the same things. No, we don't. But I really struggled with it. I love food. Some people sort of have a
you like to
love-hate
cook?
relationship with it. No, that's I do, but I don't. I love to bake.
Uh-huh.
I will bake cakes and brunch all day long, pancakes, chocolate souffles, but cooking a chicken doesn't interest me, but I do love to eat. So I struggle with not finishing everything on my plate.
Yep.
And that's hard for me to not finish.
So the whole world is an interesting time in the world of nutrition, healthness, wellness, and longevity. And we can talk and do talk more about longevity now because you have much more awareness of nutrition and its benefits. We understand, as you say, we already know everything. It just is coached and taught to us properly. We have breakthroughs in medicine that are quite extraordinary. In my lifetime, the scourge of HIV came along.
Right.
And
yeah.
it was killing people left and right, and now it's a treatable chronic condition.
It's a nothing.
Right.
It's a nothing.
And so you have all those changes. The things that worry us that we look at and write about a lot is in a world where everyone is connected, there's more loneliness than ever. In a world of plenty where you don't seem to be able to make good choices, the rate of diabetes is increasing, not decreasing. So there's lots to be concerned about, but on the other hand, the reason we're talking more about longevity is because of breakthroughs in nutrition, in knowledge about exercise, in knowledge about the 5 keys to a healthy life: exercise, nutrition, sleep, hormonal balance, and spirituality. It just plain works. We can live longer, better, healthier lives, but that has consequences too. So in the weeks and months ahead, we look forward to your thoughts on how do we make sure we live longer, and how do we plan to live longer, and what are the consequences of that? Relationships,
I love that.
health, careers, interest, and social.
And social. Yeah.
I can tell you, as I get older and we lose friends, and unfortunately recently a couple, it has a social consequence that you really have to be aware of.
Yeah.
And I know growing up in a family I did, that we all stayed local, we all stayed nearby, that people didn't go to nursing homes because everyone just lived in the same house.
Everyone pitched in, to help.
Social needs are different now. And geography is so much broader. I mean, we hop down to Florida like it's nothing.
Right.
I remember if my parents were going away to someplace, they were going to Florida. We all drove them to the airport. It was a big deal,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Father got a coat and tie on.
Yeah.
He's going to travel,
Right.
Now we do it for an overnighter,
It's nothing. It's nothing.
So things have changed. A lot to explore in the weeks and months ahead. So we look forward to your thoughts. So,
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really been a pleasure. It's been so much fun.
Jackie, did you learn anything from Sophie?
I learned so much.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
like, my brain is spinning. There was
You're
just
so
so much
sweet.
good information.
Yeah.
Do you ever do grounding?
Bare feet in the
Bare
sand.
feet, whether it's the sand or the dirt or
Yeah.
grass, as a way to start the day. Again, going back to that kind of spirituality and being able to kind of start the day with like mindfulness.
I
Feet in the
love
ground.
I love the idea. I do walk barefoot intentionally
Yes.
in the sand. So not year round, but close to, because I do.
Is it Long Beach?
I don't think of it
Is it Long Beach or
as
Point
granted.
Lookout?
Yeah. Actually, in between Lido Beach.
Oh, really?
So you're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. Yeah. But I do love that connection.
To the
I
earth.
do really believe in that.
Mhm.
I think one can ground oneself with animals that one hasn't cooked. And I believe very much in all
Yeah.
of that. So I think that I think it's really important not to lose sight of that. But when you talk about sort of in a world of plenty, you can feel lonely. It's with social media, you can feel as though you have no friends. I see that with my kids. And we talk about plenty with food, but a lot of the food has absolutely no nutrition in it, no nutrients, right? So there can be things can feel so plentiful, and then we wonder why we're so empty. And I do think that connection with the earth, that reminder is. Do
you take any supplements?
I take vitamin D, and it's a great question. I take vitamin D and I take probiotic, and I'm a big believer in those two.
What is a probiotic?
Probiotic, it's essentially replenishing the healthy bacteria in our guts, and this is such a big topic. We could spend an hour talking about this, but really good health, including our weight management, starts in our gut. And our mood is connected to our gut, right? So if you have dysbiosis in the gut, it can lead to depression, it can lead to anxiety. So anyone who has ever taken an antibiotic in their life has killed off some of that healthy bacteria. We've all taken antibiotics for one reason or another, and they are definitely overprescribed. So we don't want to take them too much, but replenishing that healthy bacteria with a probiotic. Prebiotics, of course, feed the probiotics. So that's your artichokes and fiber and apples and such. And now we're feeding the healthy bacteria, but it's important to have, I'm going to touch upon that actually briefly in a way that will make you both squirm, but healthy gut bacteria is, if I had a sixth finger, I would stick it somewhere in there. That would be the sort of sixth element. And vitamin D, most of us are short in vitamin D because we're not getting outside enough, right? And when we do go outside, we have sleeves on. In the summer, we put sunscreen. And we should, my dermatologist will murder me for saying it, but we should have exposure to the sun without sunscreen for short periods of time.
I do that. I go down to Florida sometimes in the winter for a week at a time here and there, and work from there. And I love to walk on a beach. And I figure I'll build up a little bit of sun protection. I'll expose myself for 10 minutes a day.
10 minutes, yep.
And I do. I build up a little bit of color, and I don't feel like I need sunblock. I just went to my dermatologist, and she said, shame on you. She said, you should wear an SPF 50 minimum every day, all the time. I said, no building up base? She said, no building up a base.
No building up a base, but we need our vitamin D, and I am a believer in sunlight, right? I mean, we are solar powered.
Because I've heard people say that you can take vitamin D and it's very good for coloring your urine, but your body doesn't really absorb processed.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same,
But I'll tell you, I take one a day for old guys.
Yeah.
I take a D.
Why not? Yeah.
I take a chondroitin. And that's the only one I can prove that's worked.
And that's why you can do squats. But it's add the probiotic. Here's food for thought. Have you heard of...
That's the name of your column.
Yeah, food for thought. Well, this won't be the name of my column. Have you heard of fecal transplant centers? So,
sounds pretty shitty to me.
There you go. Exactly, right. So, they're taking fecal matter.
The place is a dump.
Exactly. I heard the place is a dump. That's very clever. You take fecal matter from lean individuals. They transplant it, meaning they insert it into the colon of obese individuals, and with no other changes, the obese individuals lose weight because they are populating their gut with healthy bacteria. So I know. So if you test it, people who do stool testing, there's a little critter called Akkermansia, and people who have higher levels of Akkermansia tend to be slimmer than people who don't. And people who have low levels of Akkermansia, you can actually buy it. There's a supplement company that sells probiotic Akkermansia. You can buy it on Amazon even, I think. But replenishing these healthy bacteria Lactobacillus rhamnosus is another one, linked, proven to cause fat loss in women. The study was for women, so I can't include men. But some of these healthy bacteria are empirically linked to fat loss in human beings, not weight loss, specifically fat loss in human beings. So I mean, we all sort of go,
recoil.
I don't want to do that. And suddenly it sounds like a last resort for most people. But the point is, it's out there and it exists and it's effective. Mm-hmm. So if you can,
it'd be interesting a year from now, what's going on with the GLP-1 world.
It's been out for a few years.
Oh, yes.
What's coming are more competitors down the pike, right? So it started with just one, and then the sister of the one, and now we have all the iterations and cousins and competitors.
Look at the value's been created in those companies. What is it? Nordisk?
Yeah. Novo Nordisk.
Novo Nordisk, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sophie.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We put our heart into everything we do. We are farmers, bakers, florists, and makers who grow and create with a passion. Made with love at every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, we know you're sending more than a gift. 1-800-Flowers, share with love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and I know I'll be sharing it forward. I hope you get to as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow me along on Twitter at Jim1800Flowers and on LinkedIn at Jim McCann. Hope to talk to you soon.